But it's just a language.
Right.
Because when you look at a skin tone,
I mean, culturally, like, you know,
and
stuff
then
like
and then
that.
culturally, but when you look at it culturally too, but deeply, we have so many things in common around sharing gold. Like there's
It said that he was the richest person who ever lived.
Yes.
And when he was going on pilgrimage to Mecca,
Thank you.
every country he went through, gold prices dropped.
So it
because he was giving out for free.
it means you know your history.
Right.
So even from my generation,
No, your generation is like 1980, 57.
guys, forget about these two. This guy, he's waiting to say something
He's
bad.
an ancestor. when Tinubu, the Nigerian president was elected. So
You are not paying anything. You're
Right.
just paying your fare.
Right.
And even the type of train or the
Yeah.
type of transport you use will be cheaper.
Right. Right.
Economically,
Yeah.
it would not be so hard on your pocket. So like you said, if you have money, let's say $1,000 to spend, you are not using it on a visa, you're not using it on transportation.
Yeah.
You're just using, let's say, 100 on transportation.
There are people who even say that this, because people like Kwame Nkrumah, that crop of leaders, they came up with this idea of a United States of Africa long before the European Union. So some people are even saying that, I don't know if I'm wrong, but some people are even saying that the European Union took that idea from Kwame Nkrumah's idea of a united Africa. But whatever, it is what it is. But let's also take a look at some of the, well, we've talked about how this has been delayed for some reasons, but some of the reasons might have been as a result of the fact that some countries thought it was a risk to open up to everyone. Let's take a look at one or two risks to come around this opening up. Obviously, nothing can be positive. Once it opens up, it'll be a bit haphazard until it stabilizes. What are some of the risks we can expect or we can look at if indeed it does happen that every country opens up visa-free? What are some of the risky aspects of the whole thing?
Somebody would say migration to some key countries where
Mass migration.
mass migration
Okay.
to some key countries.
Right.
You understand? But at the same time, I don't actually look at it like a risk
Right.
or a risk, because look at the UK, for example.
Right.
When they joined the European Union, before they got out, no matter how they thought they were being cheated, they benefited hugely
Yeah.
in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, there is, no matter what you do, no matter laws you bring, there will be a good side
Yeah.
and a bad side.
There will be definitely be those
And
miscreants.
that makes us human.
Right.
A lot of people are waiting to take advantage of it in a good way
Right.
and in a bad way.
Right.
What we just need to do is try to maximize
The benefits.
the disadvantages.
You mean
Minimize. Sorry.
Minimize,
Try
right.
to maximize the advantages and then minimize the disadvantages.
Right.
Because I always use Europe as an example. They know the risks of opening their borders to
Yeah.
each other,
Yeah.
but they did it anyways.
Right. Over time, it's going to stabilize. It's going to
Yes.
neutralize. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, one word again. I love one word, like, it's just blueprint. Like you said, I mean, Europe did it
Yeah.
probably without a blueprint, right?
Yeah.
It's always gonna be trial and error till you figure it out.
Yeah.
So with us, actually, we're lucky to have a blueprint.
Right.
There's been continents who've already
Done it.
implemented it. They've kind of like tried and tested multiple stuff, and they've kind of like taken the ones that work
Yeah.
and showed up the ones that don't. So like I said, blueprint. There is nothing new under the sun right now.
Right.
And we're actually
Right.
lucky, like, we live in this digital age, you can get pretty much everything you want. If you
Yeah.
cannot get it, you just source it.
Right.
Yes.
You can bring experts from overseas. They're gonna help you kind of like implement a lot of things. So we've been fortunate to be like in this advanced technological modern world, right? So
Yeah.
nothing has to be that difficult.
Right.
You don't have it, You bring them in, you bring people in to help you do it. So it doesn't matter what the risks are. Like I said, we can look towards Europe, the Americans,
Right.
the Asians, and try to implement the same thing they did, because it's not really
Right.
rocket science if you think about it.
Right.
And then again, when you talk about risk, like I mean, like you say,
What sort
migration,
of
right?
risk? Yeah.
When you talk about think about Europe, let's say, pick a few countries.
Yeah.
Some are definitely better than other countries, right? But it's not
Sure.
like everybody just pouring into
Move,
those
yeah.
countries
Right.
to the point that it's like people cannot breathe.
Right.
Because there's always gonna be opportunities for people elsewhere in
Right.
different
Right.
parts of the on the continent. So it's not like South Africa is great. So it's like we're
Everybody's
gonna pile up and
no,
go to South Africa.
no.
Because if you're in South Africa, you cannot find a job, whatnot, and then you hear there is a job opportunity in Togo.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna stay in South Africa
Yeah.
because it's South Africa. No.
Yeah.
So
For
that's
me-
what I'm saying. Opportunities are like kind of
The good
open
opportunity
for different
is-
people in different places. So
I think it will help people to get out of their comfort zone.
yeah, of course.
That's
Like I'm
explore
saying,
more,
there's gonna
yeah.
be a lot of
That's
like exploration. There's
And
gonna be a lot
without
of, like, tourism,
forgetting that it's just a free visa movement, usually for tourism.
Yeah.
Of course, every country will still, just like Europe, every country still has their local laws.
laws,
So when you go there, you find a job, you still have to go through the formalities.
Yeah, but that
to get back
concept
there.
is so archaic. It's ridiculous. It's like saying that everybody's gonna start running off into these countries.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you do not really have like any job prospect,
Yeah.
you don't really have any good credentials,
Or you have a good job back home.
you will be definitely so stressed out,
Yeah.
so pressured to kind of go back home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a cycle that you cannot break. That everybody's gonna come into this city and do what?
Right. That's what I was
You
saying.
don't
in
have
the
a job, you
beginning.
don't have a place to stay.
Yeah.
So usually people who make these trips and make these changes are people who actually have something to offer.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just as I'm gonna go to South Africa for
Because
what?
it's
you gotta
visa-free,
have
yeah.
you gotta have the credentials, you gotta have opportunities, you gotta have like people you're gonna go stay with, stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like at the end of the day, if you look at it from
Yeah.
a really shallow standpoint, you're gonna be like, oh, mass migration, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right.
But other countries have done
Done it.
It's working.
Right.
So what is our excuse?
Yeah.
Okay, now to something that you were trying to run to when it wasn't. You see, they are going both here now.
Quick.
So, what should be done to reap the full benefits if indeed we do open up the continent for free travel? What are some of the real things, that should be done so we can get a full benefit? You talked about infrastructure. Can you expand on it a little bit?
So, like, for example, with infrastructure,
Yeah.
let me go to the, let's say, medical side. Yeah. If our medical side, infrastructure wise,
Yeah.
hospitals, clinics,
Right.
health sector, let me put it that way, it's
Yeah.
well developed.
Right.
What is going to happen is we are not only going to get the brilliant brains from our country, but we are going to get them from the Nigerians,
Right.
the-
From
already
the-
Nigeria.
all over the place,
We in
the
Nigeria,
entire
we are
continent.
we
Yeah.
are already married already,
Right.
and no matter what, we will not divorce. But like those other countries, we will get people because, and then they will get people from
Right.
our place too. So it's like a kind of a barter trade.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
We are going to benefit.
Right.
But the key thing is if we get so any country that will open up, you have to make sure your sectors working. If it's education side, if it's health, agriculture, if you put those, we are able to put those things in place.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we each and every country will benefit fairly,
Right. Right.
depending on what you put on
Right.
the plate. Because the youth now in Africa has no work. So if the doors are open like that and they can move and the sectors are in place, where they come, they move to this other country, they have some work to do in agriculture or this and that, we will develop as a continent
Right.
faster.
Right. I like what you're talking about infrastructure. It means that even the basic structures, like take insurance for instance, like when you go into Europe, you have to buy insurance,
Yes.
and usually it's valid for maybe the whole Schengen area.
Yeah.
I think the famous company is Allianz or something like that. Some
Allianz.
some insurance company. So if the structures are right, you can say, okay, I'm traveling to another African country. Maybe in Ghana I have health insurance, but what if I go to say Burundi and I get sick? These are some of the structures that should be continent wide. So when you buy the insurance, wherever you get sick, it takes care of you.
Yeah.
So these are some of the non-physical structures you're talking
Yes.
about. If all these things can be put in place, it will even help local companies make money. If it's a
serious money.
if it's a locally run insurance just an insurance company, imagine the amount of money that company is going to make that is going to stay in the continent. You talk about highways, talk about transportation, all these should come together with this opening. Otherwise, like we're saying, you're not going to get a full benefit. If it's visa free, yes, I'm going to Morocco and I have to fly from Ghana to Portugal or Spain before I return to Morocco, then it won't make sense.
Yeah.
It means the money is still going out there.
Yeah.
So there's still loopholes. Your take on the
it's
benefits?
I think it's all cool and all, but it's all up in the air, right? The most important thing for me is like connectivity,
Right.
Because if we just talk about free flow of people, right?
Yeah,
But if it's just about that, then there's not going to be any like progress or any like economical,
right.
like at least sporadically, it's not going to be as fast as we want it. So I think it has to be about connectivity.
Right.
It's like you're saying in terms of transportation, in terms of like goods and services, stuff like that, right? We should be able to trade amongst ourselves before looking outside.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because right now, most of the stuff on the continent is exported overseas. Like it leaves the leaves the continent.
Yeah.
Not leaves your country to like another African. It's like it leaves the continent. So if we could find like partners like on the continent and kind of like trade,
you read between the
freely,
market area you feel where you can invest a little property.
Yeah, to say it in layman terms, it's like family business, right?
Yeah.
Everything says. I mean, this is why China has progressed so much in a very short amount of time because it's like everything stays here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the Africa Continental Free Trade Zone. They asked the boss, the South African guy who's in Ghana. He said what they're working on now is the biggest hurdle now is the international payment system.
Yeah.
So like we're saying, if the structures are in place, I can take any bank card in Ghana, leave my money in my Ghana bank account, go to Zimbabwe and just pay for things in Zimbabwe. Where I will only pay a fee of maybe 10 pesos. But as it stands now, if I take my Visa card, I go to South Africa, I'm going to pay Visa fees. So people are not even willing to use their local
But this
card.
is where we progress. And
exactly
the same way I come back to referencing China, right? If you pick up an app like WeChat, you transact without paying
everywhere
any charge.
in the country.
It doesn't matter what bank you use, you do not pay any charges.
That's what we should
So
get
it makes
to,
it easier for people to spend.
Exactly.
You don't really think so much.
Yeah.
And the thing, like one thing I really got to throw out there, like for a fact, we got to stop that xenophobia bullshit. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, do you know what I mean? Because
you are taking my job.
it's all good until
stupidity
shit
and
hits the
stupid.
fan. So we got to really put that out there. All that nonsense. That is one thing, if you ask me, I'm worried
It's
about.
a cake.
Yeah, that is one thing
need
that
to
I would
change.
say we have to change our mindset about.
Yeah.
If you got what it takes, a company wants to work with you, nobody's gonna be like, "Oh, you're taking my job." The job is not mine in the first place. So how are you taking it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got employed because of
if
your
you're
capabilities and
qualified
your
to get that
credentials.
job, you
That's
should
what I'm
have done
saying.
it. You shouldn't be sitting home and saying somebody's
Exactly.
taking your
No,
job.
there's a difference. I got the job, and then you kind of backstab and you got my job. Then I have a personal issue with you.
I'm sitting at home.
Exactly, and then I'm attacking you that you took my job.
You're sitting at home eating bamboo
because you came to Ghana, you found a job, and I
mean, recently,
we gotta condemn it. Like
Until recently, there was a South African journalist working for Joy FM, Joy TV, Joy News. I didn't even know she was South African. I forget the name. She recently went back. I think she got another job. There was another Kenyan lady working for a while for it. That's how it should be. You are an African. You are from another country. So what?
If they didn't tell you where they are from, you
wouldn't
even know.
Exactly.
That's the
You're
point.
doing your job. You're not killing anyone. Why should I be bothered about it? So yeah, I mean, the structures, like we are saying, the physical infrastructure, trains, highways, airplanes, so that the money stays in the continent, payment systems and all that. Look, I should be able to go to Tanzania, eat at a restaurant, pay with a bank card from Ghana, and not be charged anything. So that's the challenge. The AFCFTA boss was saying that the challenge is it's hard for countries to synchronize because the exchange rate that is confused. So until all countries accept it will be difficult. But he said they are making headway, and soon it will be ready.
We will get there.
We'll get there.
The greedy and selfish
It is-
leaders do
yes.
that.
They don't want
think
to-
of
yeah.
themselves,
Yeah, it has to-
because sometimes like people talk about like Trump saying that, like America first or make America great, blah blah blah. But this is what one time I think Akufo-Addo was like interviewed, and he said the same time. It's like every leader, of course, that's your job to think about your people first.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's like
They're thinking
it's
about
a-
their pockets
exactly
first.
right. And also we're
Right.
talking about the content. It's like it's gonna benefit everybody.
Right.
Unless you think there is something that you're not gonna like,
Yeah. You see,
Yeah.
then you're gonna
You
oppose it because I do
mentioned-
not know why any person would oppose this.
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious.
what the Europeans did, Nkrumah talked about it.
In the
Nkrumah
60s.
Yes, in the 60s.
Yeah.
Oh, earlier. I mean,
Yeah.
they started the plan earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Europeans went ahead and did it. To the extent that they started using one currency.
Yeah.
But the thing, we have no problem with the Europeans. But
No,
it's been-
no, it's not.
My
I'm
point is-
talking.
it's-
I'm
you know,
talking
I get
about.
that.
I'm using
No,
it to.
I get it.
No,
My
I-
point is that so many ideas that the West have is the same thing.
No.
So
but-
many came from Africa.
Hold on. My
point is
my-
that it's nothing really new.
No,
that they
no.
implemented.
I get it's not new because we had a plan already. We didn't
Implement it.
Take action.
it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you mentioned it too. You said we have a blueprint already. It means somebody has done it. We came up with the idea.
Yeah.
They went ahead, did it.
Yeah.
We have to learn from their flaws and their achievements.
Right.
So you're talking about sinking our monies and whatever. There was a point they realized I'm talking about the Europeans. They realized no, we are going for
One currency. Yeah.
that will help all
So
of
you
us.
can buy a
It doesn't
TV.
matter how poor your country
Yes.
is.
You can buy a TV in
You
Germany,
understand?
200 euros. Buy the same.
Yes.
200 euros in
So
France.
we have to look beyond self-greed.
Exactly.
When you're talking about
Exactly.
self-greed. Oh, my country is wealthy now. No, we are talking about the entire continent.
Exactly.
Because if you are wealthy and you come and buy even cheap from me, you still sell it expensive to your people.
Right.
Because your my economics
Your currency or whatever,
your
your
currency
economy,
and economy and
GDP.
what GDP is higher.
Right.
You understand? And those who are also suffering, they will suffer.
Yeah,
You
but I
understand?
also think we have to consider this though. It's like we have to, like you said, copy, emulate, the blueprint that
Yeah.
the West have, but we should not forget to kind of like incorporate in our traditions and culture.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you really emulate
shouldn't be
100%,
blindly
there are a lot of
copying.
things that might
Yeah.
not work in our continent.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
we
I'm
gotta
saying.
have that backing of backing it with our culture, our beliefs,
It is
our
only
ethics and stuff like that.
It is
Right.
only a fool who doesn't learn from
Yeah.
people's experience.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
And as much as you're learning from people's experience, you want to implement certain things, you look at your home. Yeah. So my point is we should know where we are
Right.
traditionally, culturally,
Right.
and then implement rules and
Policies,
all policies
yeah.
and
Yeah.
to fit
Right.
into
Yeah, to fit our standard
Exactly.
of
Our standard.
life.
That's,
That's
the
all.
word. That's the word. And also talking about transportation is very important because if you have to move people and goods, you need transportation.
Yeah, goods and services.
I mean,
That's
Ethiopian
it.
Airlines has been running since the 50s and is the biggest one of the biggest airlines in the world. Kenya is doing well. Rwanda is doing well. Fine. We need more airlines and we need to reduce the fares as well. Because if we implement all these good stuff, and I'm going to say Kenya, which is maybe 3 hours away, and I have to pay $1,000, then I don't want to go. It still doesn't solve the problem. But if I can get a flight ticket to Kenya for $100, people will just jump on the plane all over the
I want
continent.
to ask you this question. Maybe you guys can help me. Which one makes more money, the trains or the airplanes?
I think definitely.
Within, especially we are in China, so let's take it within China.
I think the train definitely, because a train can take 1,000 people, an airplane at most 300, something like that. And in China, the train fare to Beijing, for example, is almost the same as the
a
airplane.
plane, yeah.
And even the plane sometimes is more expensive.
Yeah.
But if you do it in terms of numbers, if the train is taking now I think the fare to Beijing is like what 500,
600,
600, something like let's say 500,
Yeah.
and it takes 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And not every one of the 1,000 people is going to Beijing. Some
Straight,
stop
yeah,
on the way,
yeah.
some get on it. So even before it gets to Beijing, it has gained twice or one and a half the fare to Beijing.
I don't know. I don't really
So
know. It's kind
definitely.
of like dicey because it's like you have to factor in a few things like taxes, maintenance costs, what you call it?
But which one is cheaper
Still-
to build?
still
That is the
cheaper
thing.
to build? That's also hard to say.
I
don't
think
really- I'm
airports
not
are
really-
cheaper.
I'm not really sure.
Airports are cheaper.
Because building
I
a
don't really
rail
know the
line,
data
we
or
don't know
the
the details,
statistics
but
here, so it's
building a
a bit-
rail line is very expensive.
Because you know what you're talking about, like
Air transport.
Air transport. That was why I came in with this question, because I'm thinking if we're able to connect this continent, yeah, like we move freely and we connect by forget about, but I can move straight from let's say somewhere straight to Ghana by train. Yeah, I know I'll pass through some
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
but straight. I can go within days and come back.
You want to see Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, you just go and come back.
And I know I can travel the whole place by train
Right,
and I'll be cool.
right.
You know, I'm thinking about the fare, how much they will charge comparing to planes.
That's why we need a unified currency.
Yes.
Otherwise, if we're dealing with our own, it's going to be,
Too expensive for someone.
and we won't
yeah.
achieve the full benefits.
Yeah.
All right, good discussion. And I just want to, this is the last thing I want to talk about, so we don't, I think we have covered most of the topics. Should this be a continent-wide revolution? I'll call it revolution because it's something that must happen with force. Should this be a continent-wide, or do you think it should still be like on a bilateral level where we say, okay, yeah, me and you, we have agreement. Okay, finally, I open up to everyone. Or should it be something, a declaration by AU that, okay, the whole continent, let's do this?
He mentioned something about we have problem with leadership. Leadership and leadership with greed. Yeah, it's our problem. Under normal circumstances, we shouldn't be where we are. But unfortunately, we are there. Okay. If today AU decide to announce that, certain people will say it is not of my benefit.
Yeah.
So I feel that it's a game.
It should happen.
You remember when we were kids? Sometimes you get so annoyed,
Yeah.
you pick your ball and you run. The next day, somebody brings another ball,
Yeah.
and you're not part of it.
If you play it
And
above this level, this
and
height,
you see the way
yeah,
they are playing, you kind of feel bad that you took that action the day before,
yeah,
and now you are not part of the game.
you're right.
So I just feel like we should allow them. Should allow any other country that feels they are not ready to be part. Those who are ready, they should keep joining forces and keep doing things. Those who feels they are not ready or they don't want to be part, they
Yeah.
will see how the game is going.
Yeah.
If it's sweet, you will come and join.
Right. Okay.
It's as simple
So
as that.
Stephen is saying it should be a gradual process. Let it unroll naturally.
We should not push.
Right.
Push.
Yeah,
up.
because he's right. Because it's like you've not really kind of like started anything, so it's difficult for people to be like, it's gonna work or it's not gonna work.
Right.
So I think, like you say, it has to be a gradual
Process.
It has to be a gradual process, right?
Yeah.
Because until people join, it's kind of like it's a bit scary. You don't know
Yeah.
what you really get into.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel like the government have the capacity, the apparatus, the people to kind of like do their research properly and see if it's feasible. Or
Right,
not.
right.
As a people, all we got to do is educate ourselves, learn from people who've kind of like implemented it,
Right.
and see if it's a good thing, if it's a healthy thing for the continent. But I think from what we've all seen, I think it's something that is
step.
necessary.
Right.
I think it's a good step. But we just need to educate ourselves more. And then the powers that be, they also got to do their groundwork and
Yeah.
make sure that it's implemented
Right.
and successful.
Right.
That's the most important thing.
Right.
That chances of it being a success is way higher than that.
Right. I agree. I think that's why the Minister of Foreign Affairs is saying they are considering it. As a government, there are a lot of things you need to consider. Maybe it's not the right time for you. Maybe you still have some issues to trash out. Maybe you even have some bilateral problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've seen
With
it in
some-
Europe,
some
right? There were a lot of
countries.
countries that wanted to
Yeah.
get annexed, right?
yeah,
They did not want to
exactly.
be a part of the EU
Yeah.
because they thought it's not fair to them, but they were not benefiting.
And even till now, some countries are still
be some
not.
problems and some
some-
countries
Yeah, everybody
that
wants to
would
look
not.
out for their interest,
Right,
which is actually it's not a bad thing,
Right.
because it is going to open up for everyone, in every African.
Right.
So, what is my benefit? You understand?
do I get-
How
yeah.
do I get this for my people? How do I get this for
Because if you take a country like, let's say Sudan or
Chad.
any Chad, how many tourists are they going to get
Yes.
versus Ghana?
Yes.
You know what I mean? A South African, or we're not trying to shade any country here, but
Yeah.
these are facts.
Yeah.
Because of Ghana's rich history with slavery, independence, and all that, most tourists are going to gravitate towards Ghana
Yeah.
than to a country like Chad.
Yeah.
Because what Ghana has a tourism advantage over Chad.
Yeah.
So you're right by saying countries are going to look at it individually and say, yes, free movement of people. I won't get visa money anymore for people who genuinely want to come to my country. But now you're making it easy for some other countries to have competitive advantage over us. So these are all things that individual countries will want to consider. All right, guys, it's been a really good discussion. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. And we are pretty sure you have your own opinions about this whole thing. And I think a lot of people are getting excited from what we see on the news and people's reactions and comments and all that. We just hope that, like we said here, things will keep opening up so that we can travel freely around our continent. It doesn't make sense that I have to go and queue for a visa to go to Europe or the Americas, and also queue for a visa to go to an African country. These are different countries, but we still have so many similarities between or amongst us. So yeah, that was our take on the whole thing that is catching on now. What do you think? Leave a comment down there so we can get the discussion going. From here, thank you so much for watching. DLS Wave signing out. Peace.
Like, share, and subscribe.